Welcome to the Warning Track Power Hour. I am Dr. Andrew Scaff, Dr. Michael Warman, Esquire. On today's show, we'll get into our now annual NFL quarterback preview. We'll be talking about the quarterbacks of the NFC West and the NFC South. We'll get to a little bit of baseball news and the trade deadline and check in on the Royals season. We'll start today's show where we started last week's show with the Olympics, the 2024 Olympics in Paris. Did you watch the opening ceremony? And what sports have you been checking in on so far in the early days of the Olympics?
I watched some of the opening ceremony. I saw the torch lighting and I saw some of the boats going through. I didn't see the controversial tableau vivant that was the Last Supper slash Bacchanalia thing. I think both sides are being a little bit uh, disingenuous or up in arms about what is just kind of French kind of artistic crap. And it like some of like they say, oh, it wasn't the last, like they'll say, oh, it wasn't the Last Supper or whatever, but it was kind of. And and that's part of, so at least own it if you're gonna do it, I
Yeah.
think. But that was the thing that overshadowed a lot of stuff. But I didn't even pay attention to that. I didn't see that part. I thought the rest of it, I thought it was kind of cool, with the balloon being lifted off with the torch and stuff like that. So I thought that was pretty cool. I've watched a lot of other stuff. I've watched a decent amount because I have Peacock, so I can just watch kind of whatever, whenever.
Let's say maybe before you
Um,
get off the opening ceremony stuff though, like I actually did watch like the whole opening ceremony this time, which is rare. I don't usually catch most of it, but I was gonna ask you though, just real quickly, did you like the metal portion of it with the French metal band Gojira playing with the
I
opera
didn't
singer?
see good. I didn't
Oh,
see good. I
it was pretty
saw
cool actually.
Celine
I thought it
Dion.
was pretty neat. There was a
Was it
lot
good?
of fire, and there was the headless Marie Antoinette singing with her own uh head in her
Oh,
hand anyway. So the it was
yeah. I didn't catch
I don't know.
all of it. Yeah, I
It
didn't
was
catch
like
that part.
a metal band that's been around for a while anyway. But it was pretty cool.
Did
Like they were
had,
like posted up
had
on
you
like
heard of them
different parts of
before
this
the ceremony?
building and hmm?
Had you heard of
What?
them before the ceremony? Had you
Yeah.
heard of
And
Gojira?
and but they I didn't recognize them on screen at least anyway. I haven't seen them perform before, but I've heard their music before. But uh, I thought it was interesting anyways. Like it sounded very heavy anyways. Like that sounds kind of familiar. But the announcer said nothing about them at all, and they talked over a lot of it,
Yeah.
which is kind of annoying. So, but it was it
Yeah,
was a it was a cool show, and it was like a giant music video that played out live anyway. So sorry, I just wanted to ask you about that if you noticed that or saw it, I guess
no,
is
I
what.
didn't see it. I didn't see that part. I only watched kind of bits and pieces of it.
Yeah.
I saw like it live towards the end. I caught the end of it live, and then I caught the rebroadcast a little bit, but it was only bits and pieces. I saw it mostly. I just saw the boat arrive on the boats, and I
Right.
saw like the kind of performance of Imagine, um, and a couple other things. And Celine Dion sing, and
Yeah.
um, yeah, Carl Lewis and Serena Williams on a boat together, and the sort of kind of random Olympic celebrities, and then it was a bunch of French athletes that I hadn't really heard of.
Yeah. And don't forget America's torch player, Snoop Dogg, obviously, who would
Snoop
be
Dogg, yeah,
they
yeah.
associate with them with
Nadal
sports
was
and
out there too, I think, for some parts of it.
uh,
Yeah, Snoop Dogg's been everywhere. He's been in the
yeah.
gymnastics. He's been lots of places. Seems like a lot of the celebrities who have been out there have been quite a few places. Lady Gaga has been cited a lot of places. Tom Cruise. Um, I'm trying to think who else it was. Who else? I think Jason Kelsey and Kylie Kelsey were there.
Nice.
Um, yeah, so it's been an interesting Olympics. I watched some of the volleyball. I watched some beach, and I watched a good men's volleyball match against. think it's Italy. That was they played really well. So I think I picked because I did predict the men's volleyball team to medal, and they're looking good for that right now. I also picked against the women's soccer team from winning the gold, and they look really good against Germany. I think France is still holding up okay though. That's my pick to win the gold. My really only miscue has been the U.S. women. I predicted in basketball. I predicted them not to cover against Japan, and they did cover. So you won that bet, Dr. Scaff. But I think my overall medals is looking fairly good because the USA has won a lot of medals, but they haven't won a lot of gold medals. And this is one of the things I kind of predicted. Sometimes they win a lot of medals, but they don't win the golds. And some other countries they win a lot of golds and don't do much else. Like Japan has 7 gold medals and only like 12 medals total, and the USA like has right as of right now is like 27 medals and like only 4 are
Yeah, I think
gold. So,
4 golds, yeah.
um, but they
It's a
haven't
leading
had
in
some of the
medals, but like sixth in gold, something like that, I think.
Yeah, but they haven't had some of the big like swimming things that the U.S. usually does well, and they've had a few of those, but Australia's done pretty well in the swimming so far. They still have a lot of gymnastics left. The USA women just won gold. The men won bronze, which is the first time that's happened for a while. But the individual golds, Simone Biles might get 2 or 3 more gold medals, and that'll bump them up. Um,
And
so
and and I did have the women's winning the overall team gold too, so I got
you did.
that bet correct anyway.
You
So
won about $40, something like that,
something
$50.
like it's minus
Yeah.
195, so yeah, something like that.
Yeah, not bad. That was actually pretty good money. Yeah, that was a pretty good bet actually. Even
That
if,
was one that was
yeah, I
one of
thought the
the
USA
ones I was hoping to just
might be a
bank
bigger
some
favorite than
money.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Italy and Brazil were the silver and bronze, which is unusual. That
Yeah.
you'll think two countries as being um like where's China? China had a team. Like what had happened to China? They just fall apart. I didn't see they're rebroadcasting it right now as we're doing this show, or they did just in the last couple hours. So maybe they showed a lot of Chinese kerplunks, but the USA won pretty easily in gymnastics. There's been I've watched quite a bit of stuff, and it's been fun. I think I've watched this Olympics a lot more than I did the 3 years ago in Japan, partly because it was maybe a weird time, and it was weird time zones. And it probably didn't seem as Olympic because everybody's wearing masks and stuff. So it was a little bit kind of sucked for Tokyo, but it's just kind of how it was. So I'm looking forward to Los Angeles in 4 years. Then everything will be in prime time normally, and we'll be able to watch stuff that um, as it happens rather than either wake up early or whatever. So how have you enjoyed the games of the 33rd Olympiad, Dr. Scaff?
I've watched a lot more of the opening ceremonies than I have of the actual Olympics this time so far. I watched a little of the women's rugby semifinals. There was like an abbreviated version on when I turned the TV on this morning, so I caught some of that. But I guess the finals has already happened, and then which it seems really shocking that it's that fast. Apparently, they don't take much
Yeah,
time
like
off
they had like four or
games,
five
man.
different matches already, it seems like.
It's crazy. But yeah, I think a lot of the events that I tend to want to watch haven't happened yet, so I still have opportunities to step up my Olympic watching game here.
Did you watch any of the men's basketball against Serbia? I watched
I
most of that game.
didn't, but I heard that they played quite well, and
This did
was
very
that I
well.
think
Durant
Durant was
was
back and playing
on
well on those
fire.
two.
Yeah, he was like 9 for 9, and at the beginning he maybe missed one shot the whole game. And then LeBron was also like I think in the first half LeBron and Durant combined to be like 15 out of 15 from the field. And they each had like 20 something. Like so it was a solid victory. Jokic uh Jokic
Jokic.
was good, but Jokic was very good,
Yeah.
um but I
But it
think his
sounded like
plus
they
minus
didn't have much without him
uh,
though too, right?
yeah, like his plus minus while he was in was like 0, and then they were like minus 26 when he was out. So it
Mm.
was one of those things where I think they were largely reliant on Jokic.
I
Yeah,
mean, that's kind of what you would expect because, like, Team USA, it's like all NBA players. So if one NBA player subs out, it's another NBA player coming in
yeah.
for them. So they should be
Serbia
at
had
least,
4 or 5 at least.
similar talent level anyway, right? So like
Yeah, Serbia had several NBA guys, but yeah, not
yeah,
it wasn't top to bottom NBA superstars.
right.
Like George
They
Halliburton
would,
didn't even
or they
play.
wouldn't have a whole second team of NBA
Yeah,
players, right? Yeah.
like Halliburton, I don't think even played in the game. Uh, so that's how deep the USA is. So maybe I was too quick to predict the demise of the United States, given how easily they dismantled Serbia. I feel maybe the same way about the U.S. women in soccer right now, but it's still a lot of Olympics left to play. I don't really want to root against the USA, but I do kind of want my bets also to come through. So it's a
Yeah.
walking up the line there.
I think that was why I ended up going with a lot of homery type picks by using USA as a reason to try to watch the games as opposed to being against the US.
Yeah, I've watched some of the swimming, some of the diving, some of the rando sports like canoeing and um, table
Breaking?
tennis. No, I haven't watched any breaking. I don't know if it's happened yet. I don't. Yeah. So it's.
If it was
I
on, when you turn the TV on, breaking is being televised, you're walking away or you're gonna catch part of it.
I'd probably hate watch it. Probably that would be the what I would do.
You get whatever
How
you
stupid.
grab whatever food makes you feel the worst about yourself and then eat all of that
Yeah. Yeah.
with more
It's
than one utensil while watching it.
sure.
Sort of cartoon style. Yeah.
With each hand, but with both hands as I eat. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've never done that before, but that's interesting. I've never eaten food with a utensil in each hand. I've probably had things in both hands that I've eaten, sort of double fisting things, but like
Yeah.
uh, not like I don't have a spoon in
A
one
beer in
hand.
each hand probably has happened.
Yeah, not yeah, I've done that. I've never had like a spoon in one hand and a fork in the other hand, and like not and put them, like so like eating. Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, I've never done that. I never, now that I can remember. Maybe I was a little kid. But yeah, no, so but the Olympics have been fun. The US, as you said, there's still a lot of Olympiad left, and we'll see how this middle weekend is probably usually the middle weekend is the most fun because that's like the end of track, the end of swimming, beginning of track. There's still some gymnastics left. There's still some of those like it's like the crossover
Yeah.
where everything happens
Golf.
weekend.
Golf
Golf.
picks will be decided this weekend, I believe, too.
Scheffler, Schaufele. I think I had Schaufele.
You
You had
did,
Scheffler.
yes.
And, we'll see more of the tennis. Unfortunately, Djokovic beat Nadal. You probably saw that in the singles. I saw some of that match.
Yeah,
I really don't like Djokovic.
that's fine. But we didn't pick singles though. We just
And
picked
I didn't like how the announcer
doubles and
said
mixed
that
doubles.
Nadal and Djokovic were the best 2 players of all time, which I don't think. I think you could say that 2 of the best 3 players of all time, but I don't think they're. And they said like Djokovic was like the clearly the best one, which I don't think he is. 'Cause I think Djokovic had the advantage of being younger than both Federer and Nadal, so as they're on the kind of downslope of the career, he's still at the peak, so he's beating them when he is at his prime rather than when they are at their primes. Uh, so like Federer, especially was on his was on the down slope when
Yeah.
Djokovic started winning everything, and I think Nadal kind of is too. But Federer had yeah, I don't I still prefer Federer of the three. Then
And,
yeah,
yeah,
Federer then
Djokovic
Nadal.
never really had like that same sort of rivalry type guy. Like Nadal and Federer kind of took titles from each other through the bulks of their careers, right? And then
Yeah, and then Djokovic kind of was in that mix
at
as
the end,
well, kind of doing both of them.
yeah.
But I hope Alcaraz smokes Djokovic and if they end up playing. Um,
Yeah.
but Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. You want to move on to talking about a little bit of baseball, which I don't think is an Olympic sport. Is it an Olympic sport this year?
It's not anymore. Yeah,
I think it might be again in Los Angeles.
yeah. I think softball was dropped too, even so,
I
because
think,
the U.S. was too dominant at softball. So
yeah, nobody else was very good at softball.
yeah.
Baseball was revived in Tokyo, and it is supposed to be in 2028.
Hmm.
Um, it was yeah, an exhibition sport for a while. Then from 92 to 2008, I think mainly because the best players don't play in baseball. They don't like that. And then I think also like the best team is Cuba. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, they already do the World Baseball Classic, so you don't really need it at the Olympics
and
though,
all they
too.
do is defect. Yeah. It's a little bit like,
That's
yeah,
what sort of makes. I mean,
soccer.
I don't know why they put soccer in the Olympics either. Like the World Cup's a bigger event than the Olympics, so it's actually like a it's. I mean, the Olympics is actually not the peak of the event. The World Cup's already higher than that, like status wise. So it's seems like that's more important. So I don't know. I don't know why they'd want to carry it in the Olympics besides
I think it's
guaranteed
I
extra
think
dollar
there's a
advertising
lot of
money.
there's a lot of ticket sales and
So
a
it's
lot of
money. The
star
reason for it
power
is money.
that can be in there. Yeah. So
But it's a lesser event.
yeah. Well, for women though, it's seen as kind of equal on par with the World Cup. So it's
No,
in I think yeah, softball was too overwhelmingly American. I also think softball shouldn't really be a sport. I think women should just play baseball because softball was invented as a sort of lesser alternative for women who couldn't handle baseball, and I think that's sexist and it was doing something that the idea that women can really play baseball, so they have to play this other sport that was kind of dumbed down and made easier for
similar
them.
to, but maybe not quite as difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so yeah, so I think they should, and then like now like women are too good to play softball, like the fast like they basically like a good pitcher will throw like the equivalent of like 130 miles an hour because they're so close to the plate, and they throw the ball like set 80 underhand, and it they're only like 40 feet away, so it seems like it's
Yeah.
going a lot faster.
Yeah.
So like
No one's
it's, and then like
lost.
there's like all these pitchers duels that nobody scores. It just sucks, and just convert everybody to play baseball, I think. And then because I think that's also the sport that it seems like of the major sports a woman perhaps could play in like a professional men's league. I don't think, because you have little guys in baseball that have thrived, like
Altuve is
Freddie
only like
Patek.
Jose
Yeah,
Altuve is only like 5'7", 5'8", something like that,
five
isn't
six,
he?
5'5". Yeah, Freddie Patek
What
for the
is it?
Royals in the 70s, like 5'2" or something. He was really small.
Yeah.
Uh, Dustin Pedroia was a little guy. You have these little guys, especially like second baseman. People like that that could I think be decently played by with a woman could probably handle some of those positions, and so I think that's the most likely sport of the major sports for kind of gender equality, because even like um, some of the other ones like basketball, no, it's like I think really good, like decent, um like a decent college team could a men's college team, maybe not even a high level college team, men could beat like the Olympic women's basketball team, or um same with like soccer and stuff. But for baseball doesn't really require like physical strength in the same way. It's just like it's a lot of it's hand-eye coordination, and women are just as good as men at that, and can I think can
You don't have to have a home run to get on base. I mean,
yeah,
you just have to hit
yeah.
it over the infield or on the ground ball, a ground ball between infielders. That's enough for a hit. So,
Yeah, yeah, I
for
think so. I
offensive
think
side.
it's yeah. I would say if switch women over from softball to baseball, it will give them more opportunities as well for future advancement, I think. But
there was a TV show about a female pitcher making it to the major leagues.
Oh, was there? I didn't
I
what
think
was
it was
that?
like a Fox show, but I don't know what it was called now. It wasn't that bad. It was, I mean, the show was all right. It
I didn't really care for the League of Their Own TV show. It
was
wasn't
called
really
Pitch
pitch. Yeah, League of Their Own TV show was kind of crappy, I
from
thought.
2016.
It tried to be cool and like, but like it wasn't. It ended up just being about like um, the relationships off the field. There wasn't much baseball in it, and it was like all it was it was it just wasn't it just wasn't I didn't it was filmed in Pittsburgh, which I thought was I recognize a lot of locations, but um, it wasn't nearly as good as the movie.
Yeah. Oh, that was the one that oh, what was it? Abby
Yeah, from
from
Broad City.
Broad City was in. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And she can only be she can only be that one character. She doesn't have range in her acting. So like it didn't fit in like it was supposed to be like set in the 40s or 50s, but like it was completely anachronistic in every way. It seemed like in their language and then what kind of how they acted. Um
Yeah.
so it wasn't I just didn't think it was very good. I didn't finish the whole series. It was
No.
I watched a few episodes and
So you missed
called it
all the
quits.
baseball scenes. That was in the second half of the season.
No, not really. They did like CG. They did like you could tell like there was like bad CGI in some of the
Yeah.
baseball scenes. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't like in like the original Leave It Alone movie. It was like all real stuff and
Yeah.
it was them hitting the baseball and them sometimes it was like them obviously maybe hitting a ground ball, but it looked like it was a fly ball home run. But it was real baseball stuff in the movie. But yeah, like in the show, like you could say like they threw a ball and then like suddenly the ball like zipped in a way that was unnatural because it was
All of it was
CGI.
CGI. Yeah.
Yeah,
They didn't
I
want
didn't.
to take the
Did you
time
watch
to
it?
actually film baseball. Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, did you
And
like
it,
it?
I thought it was all right. Yeah, it's a lot more like, yeah, personal story sort of thing that than about the sport or anything. It's more about the players, which is fine, but it's, you know, as it's a baseball show, you want there to be at least some baseball in it. But
Some baseball. Yeah,
in
that's
the
what I
in the
want.
some
And like
baseball
there
of it
was
was showed, it was mostly just kind of disappointments, I guess, right? It was a lot like, trying out but failing and being told you can't play and stuff like that. But and then it was, yeah, a lot of, yeah, off, it was almost all off the field stuff, which is
yeah, and then like they were trying to like I know like which is
it's a
important in
drama
some
show.
ways like the civil rights movement was kind of shoehorned in there, like, and then like, but there's no
Yeah,
baseball involved because, like, like it was all, it was done better in the original
the
movie.
the
So
movie. So that's fine.
I didn't,
I thought the
I
show was
didn't.
entertaining though. But yeah, the baseball scenes didn't look good at all. Like it was all, yeah, very
Yeah, that's what I didn't
CGI.
like. I didn't like that. So that's why I couldn't deal with it. But
So,
um, in real baseball news, the Royals are still in wild card position. They have they won again tonight against the Chicago White Sox, who's, as we're broadcasting now, their losing streak is now 16 games. I believe they're 27 and like 83 or something like that, on a pace to like, be worse than the 62 Mets. But the Royals keep finding ways to
120
win.
plus losses. And
Yesterday, Bobby Wood Jr. hit a grand slam to go ahead grand slam. The Royals won 8-5. He was also instrumental in driving in the tying run, um, and scoring, I think, one of the winning runs in what ended up being the winning run in tonight's game when they won 4-3. So, but I think the biggest news though is the Royals made a few trades at the deadline over the past couple of days. Um, they they got Paul DeYoung from the White Sox, who they're playing. Uh, Infielder, maybe third baseman, might play some second base as well. They also got two pitchers, uh, Lorenzen and Michael Lorenzen, and is it Lucas Urseg? Is that how you say his name?
Seg, I think. Yeah.
Or Seg? What do you think of these deals? Does this help the Royals going forward, or is it something that is just shifting the deck chairs, not on the Titanic, because we the Royals rely on a sinking ship, but is it just window dressing? Maybe we could say.
The Paul DeYoung move doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I think he's a backup shortstop at this point, I guess. But he has enough home runs that like he's not going to displace or take playing time away from Bobby Witt as a shortstop. So it seems like they're going to be moving him to either second base or third base, maybe to spell Michael Garcia or Michael Massey or Adam Frazier. They're already sort of platooning with Massey, so it's a little bit annoying. I find it a little annoying because I'd rather see Massey be playing and being developed as being the second baseman of the future, but now they have all the at least in the short term anyway. I believe he's only under control for I think the rest of this year. I think DeYoung was going to be a free agent next year anyway. So, uh, but he would come in being third on the team in home runs, which is kind of nice to have like some extra pop, I guess, in the lineup. But
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah, after
know
Salvi,
where
there's
he
no real pop in the lineup.
fits.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
He's
hard to
not,
see like where he fits without taking playing time away from other players that are developing.
he at least makes it so there's another bat coming off the bench in a pinch hitting situation. So like if
You would
Massey's not
think
playing
so,
or
Mike, but
Garcia's not
they're
playing, or
you would think so, but I don't. They're gonna try to find more playing time for him, and it's gonna be in stupid ways.
maybe. I don't know. I think it marginally improves them. I think getting the bullpen depth. I think Lorenzen can be the fifth starter, and maybe put Marsh in the pen. Limit his innings this year. Or Seg, I think, will be pretty good. Harvey has turned out to be okay. He's kind of been he's had back issues and he let in a run today, but I think he'll be solid. Um, One thing I think the Royals did tonight was that they put Sam Long in as the closer, and he did really well. Do you think he or somebody else is better going forward than MacArthur is, who's been shaky a lot lately? What do you think of the Royals back end of the bullpen? What should they do there?
It's giving Coach Q more choices, which is usually a worse thing, in my opinion, at least anyway. So I don't know what he's gonna do at all, Mike. It seems like maybe, Sam Long maybe was not even considered to be good enough to be like on the roster to start the season, even though he had a great spring, but they left him at AAA for a while and they finally called him up. And then it seems weird that they gave him a save opportunity today. I mean, good for him, but I don't know what this is going to do at all. So it seems like MacArthur had just played, the two previous days where he had one terrible game, one okay game. The okay game was more recently, so maybe he's still a closer, but now Sam Long played well, so maybe that's going to throw things off a little more. It's really hard to say what the Royals are going to do because whatever logical thing you can try to apply to them, they're going to do something else anyway. But they still somehow manage to find ways to win sometimes, or at least against the White
Yeah.
Sox anyway, who they have dominated this year from basically every time they played them. I think
I
they've maybe
think they
lost
are
once or
500 against the
twice.
rest of the league and 10 over against the White Sox, something like that.
That's possible. Like that is, it may sound like you're making a joke about that, but it may actually be right. Is that right?
I think I saw that somewhere. Yeah, they were basically if they hadn't played the White Sox, they'd be above 500. But still, that is a much
Oh,
improved team over last year, which the Rose have already won, I believe, 58 games.
which is two more than last year, I think.
59 including today, 59 games, three more than
Two,
last year
three more
already.
than last year.
So, and we haven't even gotten to August yet. So, 2 months left
Yeah,
of the season, they've already won three more games than they did the entirety of last season. So, even if they lose the rest of their games, they'll still be better than the team last year. If they go on a um, 54 game losing streak. They have 54 more games left. So they're about a third of, exactly one third, two-thirds of the way through the season. Uh,
Yes.
if they go on a 54 game losing streak, they will still finish ahead of last year's pace. And I think even if they won a 54 game losing streak, they would still finish ahead of the White Sox in the division. That would be my guess. Because the White Sox have
Yeah.
already lost 83 games. So the Royals lost 54 games. They lose 103. So the White Sox aren't going 34 and 20 or so in their last, what are 54 games? I don't think so. Um, I
Well,
would
then
you
is it worrisome that the Royals must not have any games left against the White Sox, or maybe they just have a maybe tomorrow or something, and that's it. Is that does that bode poorly for the rest of the Royals season?
well, the Royals, it would help if they played the White Sox more, that's for sure. But I'm trying to see if they have any more games. No, no, I don't think they have any more against the White Sox after Wednesday, the 31st. So by the time this airs, they will have played their last game against the White Sox. They have an afternoon game. Brady Singer's starting. And then it's four against Detroit, at Detroit, three at home against Boston, two more home against St. Louis, at Minnesota, at Cincinnati. Angels, they get three at home. Phillies, they have some. I don't know
Also,
how easy their schedule is left, but not so easy.
also Boston's their like immediate opponent, I guess, in the or who they're vying for the one of those wild card spots
Yeah,
with. So those are kind of important games to at least show up for.
yeah, and they're at home at least.
Hopefully, hopefully they have some of their better starting pitchers
Yeah,
lined up.
Boston. The way it's
Like
lining up for Boston, they have Singer, Lugo, and Reagans as the three pitchers against Boston. So that's
perfect.
their best three right now.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, so that's and they're
So
going
you'd hope that
against
they could take two of those
they're
to
going
like,
against
actually make Boston like, work anyway to think that the Royals are a threat down the stretch.
yeah, yeah, they need I think two out of three against Boston would be very important. If they could even sweep Boston, that would be they have four against Detroit. Detroit isn't too far back in the division right now, but I think maybe Detroit might think that they could possibly challenge for a wild card still, but I think they're two games too far under 500 right now. But who knows? Maybe even 83, 85 wins might get you to that third wild card spot. So depending
Yeah,
on how teams do,
it's possible. Yeah.
but I think the Royals are. Um, I mean, I haven't checked their Fangraphs playoff odds lately.
Hmm.
Uh,
No, I have not either.
let's see
I
what the
assume that
Royals
they will have
odds.
moved up, but if most of their their win differentials come up against one team,
The Royals have a
then
52.4% chance of making the playoffs right now, according to Fangraphs.
okay.
10.1% of winning the division, 42.3% clinching wild card. Right now,
That's
the
pretty good. At this point last year, they would have been, at zero, right? So
yeah, they are yeah, last time it'd definitely be zero. It would be
yeah.
almost um where the White Sox are right now. So
Do they have like for the
that's
remainder of this schedule, they have the Royals being a sub 500 team, ending at 85.5 wins is their current projection.
yes.
So that's kind of what we would have just discovered anyway with the Royals having won so many games against the White Sox in comparison to the rest of the league. That's not surprising to see that number, is it?
No, not really, not really. But I think maybe with the additions that can help, even one or two more decent pitchers in the bullpen can really change things around, and you cut off the worst, knock out supposedly the worst two bullpen pitchers and put in the top two, two higher ones. It could really change things, and really the bullpen is the problem right now. It was in some ways the outfield that was really bad, but now Hunter Renfroe and Isbell are playing better, especially Renfroe, who's heating up, and he's uh, hitting for power, getting on base. He's been very solid in the month of July, and now Renfroe is no longer the kind of albatross around the Royals' neck. He is helping the team greatly. He's probably been, even with especially Salvy's kind of been on a bit of a slump lately. Renfroe's probably been the second best hitter on the team after Witt over the last month.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of that is about lineup construction though. Like the Royals were playing best when Massey was hitting behind Sal because Sal was hitting better with seeing better pitches with an opposite-handed power hitter behind him.
Hmm.
And usually if Massey's not there, then it's Renfroe who is the same kind of hitter as Sal, so it doesn't help Sal. And I don't think the Royals have figured out that part of lineup construction yet, which is a little sad because it's not that hard.
Yeah, you've really been critical of Matt Quatraro and his decision making. Do you think the Royals are winning because of Quatraro or in spite of Quatraro?
To me, that's a ridiculous question because it's definitely in spite of the one thing that he's sort of found recently is that he tried out Massey in the leadoff spot, which is the best of the choices he's made recently, but it seems like the most obvious thing would be just to move Bobby Witt up to the one. I don't know why he has to hit second. I don't know what the point is. You may as well just give him the most possible chance at an extra at bat by having him be in the one. And Isbell's been fine in the nine, so he's basically like another leadoff hitter,
Yeah.
which Bobby Witt can knock in then if he's on base when the lineup flips back over. So I mean, it seems like you should just move Bobby Witt up to one and stop messing around with trying to fit somebody into that slot rather than just move your best player to the top of the lineup. Does that not just seem
Hmm.
simple and obvious?
That does make sense. So yeah, but Witt has been out of this world in July. He is batting 488 in July with an 857 slugging percentage. So on base percentage is only 505. You would think it'd be a lot higher than that because A, you think he usually walks a little bit more than that, and B, you would think that other teams would try to pitch around him if he's so hot, but he's just been raking this whole month, and his
The grand slam that he hit
OPS.
yesterday wasn't even a pitch in the strike zone. It was about a foot low, and he still went down and got it and drove it out
Yeah.
of the park anyway. So, like, I mean, if you're hitting like that, then you know, from a pitching standpoint, it's basically you have to throw pitch outs to get it by him.
So I guess Witt was only 1 for 3 today, so he's probably a little below 488, but he's still probably
Yeah,
still slugging in the 800,
we
well
did
in the
draw a walk
800s.
today though too, so his
Was it
OBP
on
would have
base
gone up
percentage?
just a bit. Yeah.
Actually, it might have gone down because his on base percentage was
Oh, well, it would have.
505.
He's was 505. Yeah, so he's probably 504 and change.
He was
But
two
I
for four. He only
mean,
got on base twice out of
I just
four.
meant relative to his batting average, it would have gone
Yeah,
up. Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
That's
Because the batting average would tick down a little more than his on base
yeah. His on
percentage.
base percentage would probably be going up to yeah. It's right now. It's he's batting three. He was batting 346. He's batting 347. Um, and his on base percentage entering the game was 391. So he's probably up to like 392 or three with being 2 for 4. Uh,
And now
and his
comfortably in the
slug.
Major League Baseball hitting race, up 15 points over Stephen Kwan now.
Yeah. Do you know who the last the Royals. Who's the last Royal to be the MLB batting champion?
Hmm. I don't.
My guess is George Brett in 1990. That's my guess, was the last Royal to be, or even AL
Yeah.
batting champion.
Yeah.
When he hit
Whit
309 in
Merrifield
1990.
was close a few years ago, but I don't know if he held on. Yeah, Whit Merrifield did pretty well a few times, but I don't know. I don't know if he ended up being in that position though. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking up right now. So the last Royal, well, yeah, 1990 George Brett for the Royals, and yeah, there have been no Royals since then as
Yeah, that makes
the American
sense.
League. So, and yeah, that would be pretty solid.
Yeah.
Um,
Were you disappointed to see that Whit Merrifield was then not picked up by the Royals, but ended up going elsewhere?
a little actually. Yeah, he went to the Braves. I would have liked to see him back for the Royals, but I think, okay.
Yeah.
He hasn't, he's probably over the hill, but it would be nice to see him be on a playoff team for the Royals if the Royals
Yeah.
do make the playoffs.
Yeah.
He's been the best Royals player probably since in the post playoff era, at least since in the post 2015 playoff era.
Yeah. Especially yeah, for consistency. He was the face of the team for several years too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, do you want to move across the Truman Sports Complex? Talk a little bit about the Chiefs.
Sure. I was
They're
going to
in.
ask you real quick. Were there any other teams, or you saw any interest in the trade deadline? Did you think anybody do anything too interesting?
Oh, um, the Dodgers got a lot of different players, but I don't think there were any real big movers and shakers that like there weren't like any big name players that were traded. So it seemed like it was a quiet deadline overall. I didn't really
A
I
quiet
wasn't
deadline for
moved.
the big names, but like there were a lot of names.
There were a lot of little trades though. Yeah,
Yeah. But none of them were that, yeah, huge blockbuster type deal that we've seen in the past years. Oh, and
yeah.
a lot of teams added like bullpen help and stuff like that. I mean, they got I think a lot of good players move that will actually help teams, but it didn't seem like there was none of that big splashy, crazy surprise moves anyway.
No, no, there wasn't. Yeah, it, it was, and there wasn't like a big fight. Like a lot of the White Sox, like some of the big White Sox names had already been traded. Of course, Dylan Cease got traded, and then he promptly throws a no hitter uh, for the Padres after he gets traded by the White Sox. So like there were some decent names bandied around, but pushed
Because you
switched from one to another. But
because you mentioned that Dylan Cease no hitter though, did you see that he'd almost thrown a no hitter with the White Sox several years earlier, and it was broken
oh
up by
yeah,
a player who was on the Padres roster. So like after they got the no hitter, the hitter that broke up his previous attempt was the one that handed him the guy that handed him the baseball to
oh that's
for him
nice.
to keep the last out anyway. That was kind of cool anyway. So
Yeah, hadn't heard that story.
yeah, that was a pretty neat story. Yeah, that's gonna pop up anyway. But yeah, because he lost a no hitter with 2 outs in the ninth, like 3 years ago, I guess. Um, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah. So well, so like we said, it'll be interesting to see how things go forward. There's a lot of teams that are competing for those wild card spots in the American League and the National League as well. So we'll see how the playoff race shapes up in the last 2 months of the season, and as the playoff race heats up in the major leagues, the NFL is heating up as well with it getting ready to start the regular season in a few weeks. I believe the Hall of Fame game is going to be Thursday of this week. so maybe on the day, something like that. So the first preseason game, but with the Bears against who are the Bears playing? I don't know. Caleb Williams isn't going to play though. I can't remember who they're going to play, um,
I don't even know.
but
Yeah.
it's the Ravens. I don't know who they're playing. Um, um,
It is Bears Texans.
Bears Texans. That's who it was. CJ Stroud against Caleb Williams, and probably neither of them are going to play. So and this is one of the things that the Chiefs do a little bit more than the other teams is that they do play some of their starters in training in preseason, and I think that also gets them a little bit more ready for the regular season than just trying to avoid injury. So far, the Chiefs have been pretty lucky with avoiding injuries. There have been a couple of minor things. Chris Jones has had a tweaked groin. We all know how that feels, and maybe not. Uh, but Joe Tooney has come back. He's with his pectoral injury that he has been cleared to play. There have been a couple other minor injuries, but so far the big major injuries have been avoided by the Chiefs, and that's kind of what you want to do in practice. We'll see, the roster is we'll see how the roster shapes up. We'll talk more about how the roster will shape up in coming weeks. But I think this week we were planning mainly to talk about quarterbacks in our annual 4-part quarterback preview show. We're going to start with the NFC West and the NFC South this week. Before we begin, Dr. Scaff, do you have any things to add related to the Chiefs or other NFL news that's on your mind?
No, yeah, it's just real minor stories, I think, is all I've really heard, but nothing too exciting to we really need to like dive into, I don't think today anyway. So
Yeah, we have
to me, the
preseason games coming
quarterback
up.
preview is more important, right?
Yeah, quarterback preview is one of our highlights of the WTPH year. Uh, it's one of our most in-depth and hard-hitting segments where we pull no punches against some of these guys that are, for some reason, on 90-man rosters right now, and perhaps will even be on 53-man rosters, at least on practice squads as time goes on. The quarterback rules have changed a little bit this year. Now the Chiefs and the other NFL teams, they can dress a third quarterback. But that quarterback does not have to be on the 53-man roster in order to be eligible to go into the game, like it was last year. They had the third string emergency quarterback could be ready, but now, so it seems like teams aren't really having out of the 90-man roster. Most teams don't have more than no team has more than 4 quarterbacks, really. Maybe debatable. We'll talk about the New Orleans Saints, but teams are lots of times sticking with only 3 quarterbacks. In some cases, there are, as we talked before we got on the air, some free agent quarterbacks that I might think and you might think are improvements over a lot of these guys that are on rosters as at the moment. You have Ryan Tannehill, probably the biggest name out there. Brian Hoyer's out there. Your favorite Ben DiNucci is out there, Dr. Scaff. Who else is out there, Andrew?
Oh,
Blaine
old
Gabbert. Blaine
Blaine
Gabbert,
Gabbert, yeah,
former Chiefs backup.
Chief backup, yeah. Yeah, with Logan Woodside, Trevor Simeon, Matt Barkley, AJ McCarron.
H. McCarron, yeah. They're not too
Nobody,
appealing, but
nobody that
when we go into
exciting.
these other names, though, they're just as good as these other scrubs that we're going to be talking about. You know, we mention, we'll mention probably maybe the most maligned quarterback that we've talked about was Nathan Peterman. He still has a roster spot, but he's probably been the least successful of any quarterback in recent memory. But he still has a job at age 30, uh, as we speak. Yeah, we'll talk about him a little bit. We're talking about New Orleans, but we'll begin with the NFC West, and we'll go from uh, sort of west to east.
Geographical west to east.
I think Seattle is slightly west of San Francisco. But we'll talk about it's also reverse alphabetical order for the NFC West,
Yes.
if you remember that. So we'll start up the Pacific Northwest of Seattle. They of course no longer have Pete Carroll as their head coach. They have new Mike McDonald, who was the defensive coordinator in Baltimore, who is now their head coach. Not to be confused with Mike McDaniel, the coach of the Miami Dolphins. A lot of Mike McSomethings around. But the quarterbacks, this is one of the teams that I think you think is maybe a little bit weak when it comes to quarterback play, especially behind starter Geno Smith.
It's not necessarily
So
weak.
Geno
It just
Smith,
seems odd they don't have a prospect, I guess, anyway, right? Like, I mean, you
well,
usually think like you'd have like your main starter is probably a veteran or at least expected to be a veteran, and then some
well,
kind of down the road maybe maybe you get a veteran backup, but then you usually have some kind of like really young-ish sort of guy that the older guys can sort of show the ropes and see if they can build them into the
we
next
do have
quarterback.
that in a way. We'll talk about Sam Howell here.
Yeah, but yeah.
But so the starter, the presumed starter is going to be Geno Smith, 6'3", 2013 second round pick by the Jets out of West Virginia University. He'll turn 34 on October 10th, which is, of course, Andrew Scaff's birthday. He's only going to be 12 years younger, I believe, than you, Andrew. Um, this is his fifth year with the Seahawks, his third year as a starter. He was the AP's Comeback Player of the Year in 2022. Did you know that they changed the criteria, or at least they specified criteria now for Comeback Player of the Year? Did you know that?
I didn't. I didn't
I
know what
think
the old criteria were
there
until
was
now
no
that it's
criteria
changed.
before. It was
Oh,
just whatever the writers thought was Comeback Player of the Year. So even somebody who had a crappy season and then played well the next season could be Comeback Player of the Year. And that's kind of what it was with Geno Smith. Like he was just not playing because he was a backup, and then he became a starter and did well in 2022. So he became Comeback Player of the Year. I think now the criteria is that you need to come back from an injury.
oh,
At least that is going to be the criteria. That's usually the players that win, but it wasn't specified, but by the Football Writers Association, the AP, whoever does the Comeback Player of the Year award. So
hmm.
uh, so Geno Smith would not have been eligible to win this time, had he been similar circumstances as 2022. Um, he is 18 and 17 in his career as a starter for Seattle. He was slightly better in 22 than he was in 23. Although he only played 15 games this past season, played 17 in 2022. 2023, he had 20 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 3,624 yards passing, almost 65% completion percentage. He had another 155 yards rushing. He rushed for about almost 400 yards though in 2022. So he had a better year in 22 than he did in 23. He's older, so maybe he's on the downslope now of his career, but he is the starter. Do you have anything else to add about Geno Smith? Solid starter, not someone that's going to wow teams, but he doesn't turn the ball over really. He's a decent player. He led the Seahawks to the playoffs before. Um, what do you think of Geno Smith? Do you have what do you have to say about him?
Yeah, he's a totally solid player, and he's making sort of like below average, I guess, for at least the top tier quarterbacks. He's at 26.4 million this year as a cap hit, which is like 10% of the roster for Seattle, but that's sort of at a value price compared to like some of the other quarterbacks we'll be talking about later in this segment anyway. So it seems like he's
Yeah,
somewhat of a
would you rather pay
value,
50
but
million?
he produces at least at the value for his contract anyway.
Yeah, would you rather pay Tua 53 million or whatever he's making, or Geno
Yeah.
Smith $26 million? It's one of those things.
Yeah, if I
And
was
I
a
think
GM and picking between those two at those dollar amounts, I would take Geno Smith every time, I think. Is that
yeah,
is that what you would
I
think
think
too,
so
or
too.
would you? Yeah.
I think especially at that price, I would probably take Tua over Geno Smith as a pure quarterback, but Smith has
Sure.
proved to be pretty durable, and he does make pretty good decisions. But he's not going to wow anybody really, but he's solid. He's kind of a mid-level quarterback. And it's a lot less, and that's a lot less money than a lot of mid-level quarterbacks are getting right now. Even,
For
Daniel
sure.
Jones, is getting 40 plus million. You know, so I
Maybe
think
not
that's a
even be the
decent,
starter if he's healthy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The Smith's backup now was Drew Lock, who has has left to go to uh,
New York, right?
New York. Yeah, he is the new uh, Giants presumably backup. Although I think he is thinking he can compete and become a starter in New York ahead of Daniel Jones. I don't know if that's really going to be happening or not. But so the new backup quarterback is is Sam Howell, 6'1", fifth round pick from Washington. Uh, by the Washington Commanders from North Carolina. He's fairly young. We were talking about developmental quarterback. He is going to be 24 on September 16th. He is actually as young or younger than a lot of the first year quarterbacks from the draft or the undrafted free agent classes um, of this year. He was picked up in an offseason trade basically for nothing. Uh, Seattle traded a third round and a fifth round pick to Washington and got a fourth and a sixth plus Howell in return. So, they moved down two spots. They moved down in the draft in 2 rounds, but they also got Howell. He started 17 games last year for the Commanders, 21 touchdowns, 21 interceptions, almost 4,000 yards passing, 63.5% completion rate. So, you want more touchdowns than interceptions. He didn't give you that. You sort of Jameis Winston like numbers there, but um, he was also sacked 65 times, which led the league. Also led the league in passing attempts. But is maybe he the developmental future starter down the road? We already have Geno Smith at 34. Howell is 10 years younger. Maybe if Smith shows signs of age, you can stick Howell in there. I don't know if I like Howell that much as a starter, but it makes some sense
65
maybe.
sacks though. That's like two,
It's
3 years
four
worth of
game
getting hit.
almost. Yeah, yeah, um, yeah.
I guess remember too, that
Uh,
was a former Chiefs OC, you know,
Eric the enemy.
yeah, showing the that was Howell's OC, I guess, right? So I mean
Yeah.
it was an offense forward type of team effort last year. So they were getting Howell more passing attempts. So
Well,
this may be a
how
nice change anyway.
many times do you think Patrick Mahomes was sacked last year?
Much less than 65. 20?
Yeah. He was sacked 27 times. So
27. A little under. Yeah.
yeah, so it's less than half the amount of times that
Still
he
less
was
than
sacked.
twice
So
a game then. So
yeah,
yeah.
and I don't think the Chiefs had the best line last year either. It's a lot of that is avoiding sacks is something a quarterback can do. It's not just having line play that sucks that leads to sacks. It's also the quarterback that the way he plays can lead to fewer sacks. We talked about there's one thing that happened with Joe Burrow last year is that he only played 10 games. Joe Burrow had 24 sacks in 10 games, which is better than he had been doing. Burrow had been in the 40s and 50s most of the time when he had played. So like he would be sacked almost a double the rate as Mahomes. So Mahomes was one of his best qualities is avoiding sacks, but maybe Howell can figure some of that out. Who knows? But that's a maybe a bit of a concern if you're Seattle and you're trying to get you know, if Geno goes down, what are you going to do with your backup? Although Geno Smith last year was sacked 31 times. He was actually
Oh,
sacked 46 times in 2020. He was sacked 46 times in 2022, so he wasn't a whole lot better at avoiding sacks in his career either. So maybe that doesn't matter as much. But um,
because
how is making not very much money either.
right, I was just gonna say, yeah, because Howell was traded and still on his rookie deal, he's actually gonna make less than the next quarterback on your list. I'm assuming
It
as soon
was
as we get
PJ
to the
Walker.
next.
Yeah, he was likely the third quarterback. I don't see him passing Howell on the depth chart. He's 29, 5'11", 2017 undrafted free agent out of Temple, where he played for Matt Rule, the former Carolina Panthers coach, now current Nebraska Cornhuskers coach, former Temple coach, former Baylor coach, former Carolina Panthers coach. But he was originally picked up by the Colts, also has played for the Houston Roughnecks of the XFL or the AAFL, now the UFL. He's also played for the Panthers, the Bears, the Browns, and the Seahawks. He was with Cleveland last year, so he's really bounced around a lot. In his career, he's 5-4 as a starter. However, he's thrown 6 touchdowns to 16 interceptions, so he has not really been the reason his teams have won those games. He started a couple of games last year at Cleveland, and he wasn't seen as a decent enough stopgap for Deshaun Watson. So they brought in Joe Flacco off the street, basically, and Flacco was the one who saved the season. Um, Only about 55% completion rate. He's not really a runner either, so he's really kind of an older veteran maybe at this point who can adapt to a lot of different systems. And if you put him in, you're not necessarily going to lose the game. But he's not somebody you want in there as a long term. Maybe he's someone though that they think, well, if Gino starts and he gets hurt in the game, maybe you want PJ Walker as your in-game substitute rather than Sam Howell, who you want as your if you have a whole game to prepare substitute. I don't know, but Walker is the third quarterback, I think, in most respects, even if he might be game day backup. But he's not somebody you want to start long term. I think there's much more upside in Sam Howell. Uh, Anything you want to add, Andrew, about PJ Walker
Mm, yeah.
or the Seahawks quarterback room? Are you still of the opinion that the Seahawks could use somebody else in that room?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they could at least take a flyer on some, undrafted free agent or somebody that, just to have a fourth quarterback, at least to, put on the practice squad. It just seems a little strange that they don't have anybody like really unknown or raw or, some of these other teams, it seems like a lot of the other teams we're going to talk about have, some kind of developmental type guy.
That
Hal's
is
already been in the
true.
league for 2 years and
Yeah.
taken 65 hits, last season,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
he's got enough experience to be a starting quarterback in the league. Not really so much as a developmental deal, though, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah. I still think he probably needs a lot more development, but
yeah,
Um, I understand why they might only have three, but yeah, I don't think
yeah,
it would hurt to have another guy. I guess you are restricted to how many people you can have on your roster right now. But
yeah.
I think it seems like most teams have four right now. At
Oh,
least uh, as we'll talk about, it seems like most of the good teams have four at least. And we'll talk about the 49ers, they have four, the Rams have four, um, the Buccaneers have four. The Falcons have four. Maybe not the obvious four that you'd want for the Falcons. We'll talk about, but the teams that are probably in playoff contention tend to have four right now. Out of
yeah.
the Chiefs, for example, also have four. Two developmental Olajuwon and Ian Book as they're battling it out for the third string quarterback position. But the 49ers are in an interesting position because their starting quarterback is not making very much money. You'll go through the financial side of things, Andrew, but of course, one of your favorite quarterbacks because of his Iowa State roots is Brock Purdy. He's 24 years old right now. He'll be 25 on December 26th on St. Stephen's Day. Is your brother? Is your brother's birthday the 26th of December? It's somewhere
Close. My
around there.
second, yeah.
Okay.
Close.
Uh,
Just
yeah.
before Christmas instead of just after.
Yeah, he's 6'1", seventh round pick in 2022 from Iowa State. Of course, he was Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick of the draft that year. He became a starter as a rookie. He's now in his third year. Do you know his younger brother, Andrew, who is uh, also a college quarterback? He's currently the University of Nevada quarterback.
Wow.
His name is Preston. He goes by Chubba Purdy, Chubba. Chubba.
Chuba,
He's
not
played for Florida State,
Chuba,
Nebraska, and
like
now in
Chuba
Nevada.
Hubbard.
I would guess Chubba because he's got two B's.
Yes.
Um,
Right, right.
he's only been a backup, Chubba Purdy. But
Hmm.
maybe Chubba might be just as good as Brock. Who knows? But Brock has been 17-4 overall as a starter, 12-4 last year, 4-2 in the playoffs. Last season, he had 113 QB rating, which led the league. 31 touchdowns, only 11 interceptions, almost 4,300 yards passing, a couple more rushing touchdowns. He has thrived in Kyle Shanahan's system. He's also maybe due for a pay increase because getting ready to start. He's on his third year now. He'll start his fourth and final year of his rookie deal next year. Um, so maybe question would be, how good do you think Brock Purdy is? How much would you pay him? He seems like the going rate for a quarterback now is at least $50 million. Do you give Brock Purdy $50 million going forward?
I don't know that anybody's really worth that kind of money, but he's probably going to get somewhere in that range, maybe on the, even higher than like the, 50 maybe the floor for what his salary may end up being. He's such a value to the team right now at only $1 million for this
Yeah, you have
season.
recently
So
Jordan Love gets 55 million. Tua got 53 million. So you would think he'd be up in that ballpark given the
because
success
he's
he's
had
had.
the playoff success to like justify an even higher salary than those other guys have got. Because like Tua hasn't really done that well in the playoffs. Jordan Love did okay in the playoffs last season, but he's mostly untested. He's been in the league for a while, but he's not really played all that much, being behind Aaron Rodgers for that long. Still justified $50+ million salary per year based on that 1 year. So you would think Purdy may be more valuable than that.
Yeah, but one of the things you might say about Purdy though is because he's been so cheap, the 49ers have been able to really spend a lot of money on their other players. So we have Christian McCaffrey with top of the line deal, George Kittle top of the line deal, Debo Samuel, high end deal, Trent Williams, making 30+ million as a tackle. You have Brandon Ayuk now wanting a bunch of money. So, will they be able to have their very high-end skill position players and offensive
Right.
line and probably, their defense they're able to spend a lot of money on as well. What will they do? They'll have to get rid of a lot of that salary when 50, have an extra 50 million now going to the quarterback. I guess you think, well, Purdy somebody who could elevate lesser talent, or is he just, another person like, we'll talk about Jimmy Garoppolo, who's now with the Rams. Is he just another guy who thrives in a quarterback-friendly system, and you can kind of plug in anybody there? I think Purdy's been a solid player, but you know, is he a top 10 quarterback in the league?
Well, what was his QBR last year, Mike?
It was number one.
So does that make him a top 10 QB by definition
Well,
then?
Tua has also led the league in quarterback rating.
But he's
Um,
getting paid in that zone too. So,
yeah,
you
which is,
know,
but I would say if he's top 10, he's number 10. Like I don't know. The quarterbacks?
top 10 is
There's
just
several.
top third, really. So it's not crazy to put somebody in the, top third or middle third or bottom third. If you had the
Yeah.
number one
Would you
QBR
uh,
from the league last year, you'd think you'd have to be in the top third, right?
yeah, would you rather have Purdy or would you rather have Jalen Hurts?
So those are one of those it's like tough. You got to make sure that Hurts stays healthy for a whole season, and Purdy's not
Yeah.
gonna, throw himself into the possibility of getting injured on a running play, purposefully at least anyway.
Yeah.
He's
I
not
think
he's
I'd
not
rather have
trying to run. If he's running, he's like, something's gone wrong. And he's probably gonna get rid of it before he gets hit, where Hurts is definitely going to take some hits because he is trying to run the ball. So, I mean, if the style of offense that you're running is more geared towards running, then maybe you'd push towards Hurts. But this is a pure quarterback. I'd rather have Purdy.
Purdy.
Yeah.
For
He's not going to
so
make a lot of mistakes though either. So like that's the kind of thing you will have to be able to support him, which is like why you have to sort of like balance as a GM, I guess. It's more of that that shell game trying to keep the money working for the cap. So it's tough from the business side to like make all this stuff work out and still have a valid team and be able to win games.
yeah, there's other players that are making a lot of money. Like Trevor Lawrence is going to make 50 plus million too. Would you rather have Purdy or Trevor Lawrence as your guy?
I know you're not super big on Trevor Lawrence in general, so I think you might even say Purdy in this case over Trevor Lawrence. But I mean, it's
At their
kind of a
current
toss up.
salaries, definitely
Would
it's
you guys
Purdy.
do?
If
Yeah,
it's both
for
50,
$1 million versus 50 plus million, yeah, we take the $1 million guy. That's just as
yeah,
good, probably. Yeah, makes
I'd
sense.
say there's about four, five, six, maybe definitely I'd take over Purdy. You take Mahomes, you take Burrow, you take
Hmm.
Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, I would take as well.
Even at the
Um,
giant salaries.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and and then after that, well, Hertz was really, really good 2 years ago. He wasn't as great last year. Tua has been trouble staying healthy. Who knows if he's better? Stroud, is young. He's only played 1 year. Can he repeat? Jordan Love, kind of the same thing. Do you want Dak Prescott? Do you want Kirk Cousins? Those guys who are kind of solid, but Aaron Rodgers still, Matthew Stafford. There's a lot of people in that kind of group, and it's hard to say. And then Stafford and Rodgers, of course, are on the kind of down slopes of their career, to say the least. Especially for Rodgers, this is going to probably his maybe last or next to last year at the latest. At the
Well, we don't know how his leg's gonna hold up after the season out,
Yeah.
last season.
So there's Purdy's. He's solid. Solid starter. Maybe elite, depending on we'll wait and see if he gets paid, and then see how the team does after he's gone. It
So yeah,
seems like
by
his
salary, he's only the third highest paid quarterback on his roster because he's still on his
roster
rookie deal. Yeah,
is the highest paid is Joshua Dobbs, the highest paid.
yeah, it's a two and a quarter million,
It's very
which is
low as
still
well. Uh,
absurdly cheap for a QB.
Aerospace engineering major, wanted to be an astronaut in Tennessee. So smart kid, 29 years old, 2017 fourth round pick by the Steelers, 6'3". He's played for the Steelers, the Jags, Steelers again, the Browns, the Lions, the Titans, the Browns again, the Cardinals, the Vikings, and the 49ers. So he's really bounced around. He played for three teams last year, and he started games for both the Cardinals and the Vikings. He started 12 games last year, eight for Arizona, four for Minnesota. Only a 3-9 record, but he was thrust into a kind of bad situations in um, both in both cities. 13 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 79 and a half rating, 2,464 yards passing. So he's also not a person that you want as a starter, but he's somebody who can learn the offense and the playoff and kind of and the playbook and be there just in case something bad goes down. So I think he's a serviceable uh, backup. What do you think of Dobbs?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like he picks up the playbook quite quickly. And didn't he go from Arizona to starting in Minnesota in like less than a week?
Yeah, and he did the same thing from Cleveland to Arizona. He did that in less than a week. So, and he won those games, I think, his
Yeah,
first starts. He didn't do as well in his later starts, but I think
yeah.
um, but probably challenging him maybe as the backup is Brandon Allen, 32 years old now, or will be 32 on September 5th. Former sixth round pick by the Jaguars out of Arkansas in 2016. He's 6'2". He's played for the Jaguars, the Rams, the Broncos, the Bengals, and the 49ers. This is his second season in San Francisco. He's 2-7 in his career as a starter. 10 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, 78 quarterback rating. Probably most famously, he started 5 games in place of Joe Burrow in 2020 when Burrow was injured as a rookie. He was only 1-4 in those starts for the Bengals. But another kind of older veteran journeyman backup who can, who knows different offenses and can probably pick up the playbook pretty well. So those are the two kind of um, sort of veteran backups. Then you have Tanner Mordecai, undrafted free agent who has played, who's going to be 25 years old in November. So he's not that young. He's already, he's a little older than Purdy is, actually. So a month older than Purdy. Tanner Mordecai, he played for Oklahoma, SMU, and Wisconsin. He has a 20-14 record as a starter in college, mostly at SMU and Wisconsin. He threw at SMU for 72 touchdowns and only 24 interceptions in his 2 seasons as in 2021 and 2022 for more than 7,100 yards. Do you know who his number 1 receiver was in that from SMU in 21 and 22? He would have been?
Hmm. I don't know.
Rashee Rice would have been his go-to
Words.
target. Then he was less impressive at Wisconsin, 6-4 record, only 9 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 4 rushing touchdowns. So he didn't, Wisconsin's offense was not as wide open, I guess, as SMU's offense, but brought in as a potential practice squad player.
He is the only QB making less than Brock Purdy easily. So Mordecai will only make 800K next year, which is
A
the
bargain.
developmental price, I believe. Yeah. But do you think the 49ers should be our backup team to the the opposite leagued team to our Chiefs because there is a quarterback from each of our alma maters on the roster.
Iowa State and Arkansas. Well, I would if the 49ers weren't as close as big of rivals as the Chiefs. And they often play the Chiefs. They'll play the Chiefs this year, I believe, in the
Yeah.
regular season. And they have been met in the Super Bowl twice in the last 5 years. So I don't want them to be the team that goes to the Super Bowl because I think they are the best team in the NFC. So I would hope that they would lose just to make the Chiefs' life a little easier. Especially, I think
But
it's very
sometimes you want the enemy rather than the
so if the
one you
Chiefs
don't.
played
Is
the
that
49ers in the Super Bowl, would you think they have a better shot at beating them 3 times in a row in the Super Bowl, or do they have a better shot at beating random other opponent in the Super Bowl if the Chiefs are trying for the three-peat?
I mean, what are they going to show them that they haven't already seen, right? So
I
you'd almost
guess.
think you'd rather see the same team again, almost.
Maybe they'd be mad out for revenge, I don't know. I don't know.
Weren't they not the last year then? So I mean, why would they?
Well, Purdy wasn't around last year. You didn't. I mean, wasn't around in the uh, first Super Bowl. So some of the guys were a little bit different, maybe. So um, another former Super Bowl team recently from the NFC winning championship team is the LA Rams, who won Super Bowl 3 years ago. Um,
Sorry,
uh,
one just real quick last note is that the San Francisco is the cheapest quarterback selection. The quarterback room is the cheapest of all of the other teams in the league. So they are saving so much money at the quarterback position that they can spend at other roster spots that like we talked about before. But they are the lowest. Only 1.9% of their roster is made up by quarterbacks.
that is unusual, but yeah, that's because of the
Yeah.
seventh round status of Brock Purdy. He's on the rookie deal where everybody's salary is negotiated basically in advance. So, but his salary is going to balloon anytime now, unless for some reason the 49ers decide they're going to trade him or do something with him. But the 49ers are going to have a huge quarterback salary room or a salary in line with the other teams very soon. But not this year. So they still have another year with Purdy on a very, very cheap deal. The Rams don't have that. They actually have multiple quarterbacks making more than Purdy. At least two making significantly more than Purdy makes. Um, their
Yes.
starter is going to be Matthew Stafford, former Super Bowl champion, former #1 overall pick by Detroit. He's 36 years old. This is his 16th season in the league, his fourth now with the Rams. He had a bounce back season last year after having an injury plagued 22 season. In 2021, he was a Super Bowl champion for the Rams. He started 15 games last year when the Rams made the playoffs. He had a 9-6 record, 24 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, almost 4,000 yards passing. He is actually 11th all time now in passing yards and passing touchdowns. Do you think Matthew Stafford is a potential football Hall of Famer? Would you put Stafford in the Hall of Fame, Andrew Scaff?
Well, he's got, I think, a lot of the bona fides, right? I mean, he's got the Super Bowl win. He's got a lot of touchdowns thrown. Even took the Lions to the playoffs before, so it's not like he hasn't been around or made bad teams better, made good teams even better still. So, and he's come back from an injury now and played well into the playoffs again. So, yeah, he's gonna be brushing up against that Hall of Fame talk.
Yeah, he is currently 25th according to Pro Football Reference's Hall of Fame monitor. He
Wouldn't I
is
mean wouldn't you put him
79.
above Eli Manning?
He is actually below right now Eli Manning in his Hall of Fame monitor stats.
Really?
He's
Because
below
Eli
Russell
has
Wilson
two Super Bowls?
because Eli won two Super Bowls basically. Yeah, he's also
Oh,
below Russell Wilson. Would you put Stafford below Wilson? I don't. I think of Stafford as a better quarterback than Wilson, but Wilson is
hmm.
higher. Um,
They're each
he'll
at one, right? Super Bowl?
yeah,
Or did
yeah. Wilson won one. Yeah, he went to
and he
two
lost
though.
and they lost one? Yes, that's
Yeah.
right.
Um, Patrick Mahomes is higher right now. Um, uh, Mahomes is at 95.88. He's
Yeah.
between Bart Starr and Terry Bradshaw.
Wow.
Uh, Stafford's between Kent Stabler and Sonny Jurgensen, both of whom are Hall of Fame quarterbacks, ahead of Bob Greasy, Warren Moon, Joe Namath, and Len Dawson.
Wow.
Ahead of Troy Aikman and Jim Kelly as well, who are in the Hall of Fame. Um, so, um, so maybe I don't know. Yeah, he's playing in an era though where there are a lot of um, big numbers and things like that.
Mhm.
Has he separated himself? I think maybe. I think the winning the Super Bowl has helped, but I think he'll probably, if he's gonna be a Hall of Famer, he's probably gonna have to wait in line a little bit, depending on because.
He's done it. He's had success with two different teams with different wide receivers. It's not like it's been like him and one other guy for like the whole career where they came up together and stayed together the whole time too. So you can't like necessarily separate one from the other as to who's caused the success of the franchise.
Yeah,
So I mean, you have to say that he is, a solid to very good quarterback though for his most of his career, right?
yeah. I think the Super Bowl has really helped him. Yeah,
Doesn't
I think
hurt.
he needs another couple of solid playoff runs in the last couple of years of his career. Maybe that will do it for him. His primary backup is going to be a future Hall of Fame in the handsome category, Jimmy Garoppolo, who was 6'2", 32 years old, 2014 second round pick by the Patriots. He's played for the Patriots, 49ers. Last year, he played for the Raiders. Probably had his most success for the 49ers. Now for the Rams, his first season. He led the 49ers to multiple playoff appearances. Like Brock Purdy, he is 4-2 as a playoff starter. He was 43-20 as a starter for the 49ers. So very solid record. He was injured in 2022 and of course was replaced by Purdy and he was the Wally Pipp to Purdy's Lou Gehrig in that situation. He only played 7 games last year, 6 starts for the Raiders. He was replaced by Aiden O'Connell in a kind of dysfunctional Raiders organization. But do you think, though, that he is playing for the Rams because Todd McVay is, or Sean, excuse me, not Todd McVay, Sean McVay is trying to stick it to the 49ers? Is that why he brought in Jimmy Garoppolo? And is that why Jimmy Garoppolo signed with the um, uh, Rams to stick it to their division rivals, San Francisco?
I mean, you can't rule it out as a factor. So possibly. Um, I mean, but if you're looking for somebody to back up your aging possible Hall of Fame quarterback, then Garoppolo's not a bad choice. He's not going to like cause any problems. He's not going to do anything terribly flashy either, but uh, but he's not going to cost you games by being too risky with the ball, at least anyway. He has a pretty good value at having experience and still being able to like play well. 3.2 million this year, as compared to Stafford's $46 million salary. Mike, who would you rather have starting between those two based on salaries?
Maybe Garoppolo. I think Stafford is a better quarterback than Garoppolo has been. I don't
Yeah,
I think Stafford can raise the level of his team in a way that Garoppolo can't. And maybe they've both been injured a lot though, but that amount of money is a good bargain, I think, for Garoppolo as a backup quarterback. So I think the Rams are in really good shape if Stafford goes down. I
yeah.
think Garoppolo
It is a
can.
totally different style of play between the two, though. So if one goes down, the defense is going to have to deal with a completely different game.
Yeah, I
If
think
Garoppolo
though
comes
that
in.
the Rams would actually be very good with Garoppolo's kind of dink and dunk approach because of Cooper
Yeah,
Kupp and Puka Nacua on the as wide receivers. Both of them are kind of possession guys, and so
yeah.
I think they could both really
So,
thrive in Garoppolo with Garoppolo. Um, Behind Garoppolo is a couple of aging, we might call them developmental quarterbacks. Most uh, famous would be the Stetson Bennett, fourth round draft pick from Georgia in 2023. He will be 27 in October, so he's not the youngest of developmental quarterbacks. Former two-time national champion at Georgia. He didn't play last year for the Rams, even though this is his second season with the Rams. He threw for about 8,000 yards in his last two seasons at Georgia, 56 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Um, Famously led, of course, led them to two national championships. But he's a small guy, only 5'11". He is but he's kind of scrappy, I guess, and he's a winner, but he's not I don't think a high upside developmental quarterback.
and
What would
already
you say
three
about
years
Stetson?
older, already 3 years older than Brock Purdy, and who's had
Yeah, he's
two
3 years older than
playoff
Purdy.
runs,
Yeah,
which seems pretty crazy. It's not even possible, but uh, yeah,
maybe he's 2 years and some change older than Purdy, we'll say.
sure, yeah.
Uh, but similarly, Dresser Wynn, who has a even dumber name than Stetson Bennett, we might say,
Race to the
undrafted
bottom.
free agent 2023. From Tennessee Martin, practice squad last year. He was also signed with the Edmonton Elks briefly. He's about 6'3", so he's more of a physical specimen than Bennett. His stats, though, at Tennessee Martin were not particularly impressive. He played part of 6 seasons there. His last season at Tennessee Martin, not even the big, not Tennessee, but Tennessee Martin. Um,
Yes.
he wasn't he, I believe, the one of the better prospects to come out of Eastern Tennessee in the last few years. Isn't that what some scout mentioned coming out of high school?
That's right.
Uh, he
I
threw
remember that from
18
last year. Yeah.
touchdowns. Yeah, 18 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 7-4 record, 2,900 yards. So decent stats, but I guess he's a project as well. But he's I guess more of an athletic upside than Stetson Bennett. But yeah, so that's the Rams have I think a solid quarterback quartet if you at least the first two, and then the second two are just a little bit older for developmental quarterbacks. I think Dresser Wynn is 25, 26 now, so he's up there in age too. So um,
But if you're trying to build an NFL handsome team, though, which quarterback are you going with?
Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah, the others are. I don't know what Dresser Win looks like. I can see Stetson Bennett and Stafford in my mind's eye, but neither of them are hideous. But none of them have the dreaminess of Garoppolo. Um, and none of the Arizona Cardinals quarterbacks, I think, either have the dreaminess
Hmm.
of Jimmy Garoppolo. Um, the Cardinals only have three in their quarterback room right now, which seems a little odd, maybe, but they're because we don't really have a veteran there. We have Kyler Murray, the starter, is the most veteran, and then we have some younger, more developmental guys. Kyler Murray is going to be 27 in about a week. He was drafted number one overall in 2019 by the Cardinals from Oklahoma. He's only 5'10", so he's the classic, as we call him, pocket passer, the pocket-sized passer. Um, 2018 Heisman winner from Oklahoma. He only played 8 games last year. Is he somebody who's injury prone? That seems to maybe be the case as we go through. He's 28, 36 and 1 in his career as a starter. In half a season last year, he passed for about 1,800 yards, 10 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 244 more yards rushing, and 3 rushing touchdowns. Another question is, how much does he really like football? He's more of a noted video gamer than he is quarterback, and somebody who studies for that. I think somebody did a study about when Call of Duty came out, or when these new games come out, and his stats in the next couple of weeks, and they go way down when the new video game comes out. So I don't know, maybe he's been more interested in playing NCAA 25 or the new Madden. He's gonna play when the new Madden comes out, or the new Halo or Call of Duty or whatever those games come out. Is his mind in football? You also was a first round draft pick by the Oakland A's in baseball. Maybe he would have been a better baseball player than a football player. Um, but he's a solid quarterback when he plays well. He's also making a ton of money. Um, and somebody he was one of the first to sign these $50 million contracts in the wake of the Mahomes deal. So
Yeah, coming in
yeah,
just under 50 million, 49.1 million for the season, or just under 20% of the team's total salary.
yeah. So he's making a lot of money. Maybe if he stays healthy, he might be almost worth it. He'll be one of the better quarterbacks in the NFC, that's for sure. But a lot of money tied up in Murray. Not too much money though tied up in the backups. Murray, they're both still on rookie deals. Desmond Ridder, she's 25, actually at the end of August. He was a former third-round pick from the University of Cincinnati by the Falcons in 2022. He's 6'3". In over 2 years in Atlanta, he started 17 games, and so basically one full season. He had passed for 3,500 plus yards, 14 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 5 rushing touchdowns. He's not really a runner, but he can run a little bit. So, solid-ish numbers, not so great. He was expendable when Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix signed with the Falcons, who we'll talk about in a minute. But he was actually acquired in a trade for wide receiver Rondale Moore in the offseason. So Desmond Ridder is probably going to be slated in as the backup ahead of Clayton Tune, another one of the all-named team. Um, he's 25 years old, former fifth-round pick from Houston by the Cardinals last year. The Houston Cougars, the college team. His last year at Houston, he threw for 40 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, over 4,000 yards. He had a 25 and 19 career record as a starter for the Cougars. He started one game last year for Arizona. He did not do very well in the one game. This was the non-Dobbs, non-Murray game. So Murray and Dobbs each started 8 games for the Cardinals. Tune got one game. He finished with 62 yards passing that game, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a whopping 22.7 quarterback rating. So I think he's clearly going to be the number 3 guy on the depth chart because Desmond Ridder has had some success as a starter. So
Although
What
I'm
about?
pretty sure that you and I were both surprised when Atlanta named Desmond Ridder the starter last year. Is that right?
Yes, I think we both thought um,
Surely they'll bring someone
that
else in.
Heineke would have been. Heineke was there; he would have been the starter, but he wasn't. So at least not most of the year. But that's the Cardinals. That's the NFC West. Any other comments about the NFC West, or should we move on to the NFC
So
South?
just real quickly, the NFC West then does make up two of the top five teams in quarterback salary total. Arizona's four, Rams are fifth. So do you expect them to be in the top five in record this year, Mike? Because they're spending so much on their quarterbacks.
I think the Rams have a good chance of making the playoffs again this year, but I don't expect the Cardinals to make the playoffs. I see probably two playoff teams out of the West, the Rams and the 49ers, or at least possible possibilities, unless there's injuries. You never know. But the 49ers are spending 32nd ranked. So I think they're sitting really pretty in terms of
So
that. I think
so really we're saying that quarterback salary is not a predictor of team success by high dollar amounts anyway, but there are
not always.
different reasons
Well, we'd
for it.
have at least not in the NFC West. It's not a predictor of quarterback success necessarily.
Right.
Maybe if you drew the line graphs and the scatter plots, you could see some correlation, but at least in the NFC West, it doesn't seem like it's very correlated.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
it's just two different strategies. It's using an inexpensive quarterback to be able to spend money elsewhere to elevate the team rather than spending a lot on the quarterback and then filling in with whoever else to elevate the
yes.
team from the quarterback side, right? Yeah. From the salary side of it anyway. Right.
Yeah, we'll see that approach, I guess, sort of in the NFC South as well, a couple different approaches.
Yeah.
But nobody is spending as much in the NFC South as they are in the
Not
West,
even
even
close.
even with the Kirk Cousins signing by Atlanta, it's still below
Oh, I guess
like,
they are top 10.
top 10.
Yeah. Number eight for Atlanta. Yeah.
So
But we're not talking about them right now.
we're talking about New Orleans first. They have as their starter, it's going to be Derek Carr, most likely, 33 years old, former second round pick from Fresno State in 2014 for the Raiders. He's a longtime Raiders starter. This is now his second year with the Saints. Last year, he had kind of nagging shoulder injury, but he still started all 17 games for the Saints. 25 touchdowns, only 8 interceptions, almost 4,000 yards passing, nearing a 97.7 quarterback rating, 9-8 record. So he almost led the Saints to the playoffs. In his career, he's 72 and 87 as a starter for a lot of bad Raiders teams, though. He's a solid player, but not spectacular. But um, you know, he was. I think at least we thought he was the best quarterback probably in the NFC South going into last year. Maybe Baker Mayfield actually had a better year, but we thought he was going to be the top quarterback in the division. I think that both of us thought maybe the Saints were going to make the playoffs because they had the best quarterback. I don't know if you can say that necessarily this year,
Well,
but
they just missed the playoffs though, really, because I think there were
yeah,
still scenarios where they could have made it on the last day. It would
yeah,
have taken a lot of other games going the right way, but it just didn't work out that way. So
yeah. Um, so Carr, it seems like has a couple of backups that are young developmental prospects. He also has a backup who's maybe a washed up, no longer developmental prospect, but maybe has approached veteran status and maybe he does something, adds something to the room. I don't know. But we'll talk about the potential uh, developmental quarterbacks first, I think, before we get into Nathan Peterman. But behind Carr, we have Jake Haener, 25 years old, who also played for Fresno State so we have two Fresno State guys in the quarterback room. He also played for the University of Washington. 2023, fourth round pick by New Orleans. He didn't play at all in 2023. He was actually suspended for the first 6 games because of a banned substance that he maybe ingested in his cold medication or something. I'm not quite sure what it was. He maybe it was something more illicit. He at least said it was something he wasn't aware of, which I guess is what most of them say, but who knows? Maybe it could be true. Um, 2.5 years as a starter at Fresno State. He was injured some in 2022 his last year, but he had a 20 touchdown to 3 interception ratio, very good. In 2021, he had 33 touchdowns, only 9 interceptions, and over 4,000 yards. He's not a runner at all. He's a statuesque pocket passer, not pocket in the way Kyler Murray or Bryce Young is, but he's
Or statuesque. Is that
statuesque. Yeah.
statuesque? Not in the like physical stature,
Not in
but
a Jimmy Garoppolo sort of way.
in the yes, yeah.
But Garoppolo's not going to run it much either, though. He's
Right.
in that one.
He's statuesque
His
both
right, yeah,
both ways. That we're saying yes,
yeah,
figurative
yes,
and also figurative, but different figurative.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I think Hayner's big rival is the newly arrived Spencer Rattler, who's 24 years old, or will be 24 in September, 6 feet tall, played for OU in South Carolina, a 2024 fifth-round draft pick. He was seen as a potential first-round pick at Oklahoma before he was passed up by Caleb Williams in the depth chart. His best season was 2020 at OU. 2 years at South Carolina, 37 touchdowns, 20 interceptions, more than 6,000 yards passing, plus some rushing touchdowns. But he's more of a pocket passer as well. He was actually the first quarterback drafted after Bo Nix in this year's draft. Bo Nix was picked in, I think, pick number 12 in the first round, and then went all the way to the fifth round before Rattler was taken. So I think it was the biggest gap in time taken between two quarterbacks ever in the draft. Um, but I think I had heard Rattler being mentioned as a potential, second, third, fourth round pick, but he was not picked up until the fifth round. So he's somebody who I think, in some ways, even though he was a fifth round pick to Jake Hayner's fourth round, was more of a higher profile college player than Hayner was. So I'd be interested to see who comes out on top in that battle. There's also, of course, Nathan Peterman, who for some reason is still getting jobs. 30 years old, 6'2", played at Tennessee and Pitt. He was a fifth round pick by Buffalo in 2017. John Gruden famously liked Peterman and compared him favorably to Mahomes coming out of college. He actually had Peterman play for his Raiders teams as well. He played for Buffalo, the Raiders, the Bears. This is his first year with the Saints. Career 1-4 as a starter, a 39 quarterback rating in his NFL career. Mostly that was from his famously terrible starts in Buffalo, where he threw, I think, more pick sixes than he did touchdowns. So why are they keeping him around? I don't know. Maybe he adds something. Maybe he's a kind of what not to do example quarterback. Or maybe he's really smart, just can't put it together on the field and is a good kind of coaching. But why wouldn't he just be a coach? But there's also somebody else we haven't mentioned. One of my off-maligned players is Taysom Hill, former quarterback from BYU, undrafted free agent by Green Bay, then went to the Saints in 2017. He's been with New Orleans ever since. In his career, he's thrown for about 2,400 yards, 11 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He only threw for 143 yards though last year, so he's become more of a gadget player than a QB. Really a hybrid tight end, running back, wide receiver. He's not really a quarterback anymore, but he's listed in some places as a quarterback on the Saints roster. He passed for 1 touchdown last year. He rushed and received for 6 more. So he's more of a as a gadget kind of outfield field player rather than a quarterback. But I thought I should mention him as well.
And
So
you seem to
any
have softened on him quite a bit too. Like you seem like you had
he
like
makes
a
less.
nearly like a boiling rage almost when his name was mentioned a
I
few years
did.
ago. And it seems like you have softened a bit on.
I had the same with Jordan Love as well, but now I've softened on him because he's proven to be a pretty good quarterback. I think Hill was being used more as somebody who is a kind of Swiss Army knife, but he should not be a quarterback, and he's not getting paid quite as much maybe as he once did. So the money that's going to him is a little. It's still quite a bit of money, but it may be a little less outrageous because he's playing these other positions now. So I have, and maybe it's simply because Dennis Allen doesn't use him as much as a quarterback as Sean Payton did. So
But have you
he's
found a
off.
replacement for your hatred? You have a new outlet for your dislike of.
Probably Aaron Rodgers is my least favorite player right now. Um, but there
There.
might be some other ones. We'll maybe run it. Nathan Peterman's up there. Uh, why
He's
is
not
he?
going to be. He's not going to be competing for playing time. I don't think though. So
No,
it seems like
no.
a waste of your own personal anger to direct it to a bench
Yeah,
player. Like
I don't
it's gonna
care.
be directed higher, somewhere more important.
I don't care for Joe Burrow much either.
Yeah,
But
that's fair too.
Burrow and um, they're better. Burrow's a good player though, so he's worth a lot of money. But I just don't care for his demeanor and I think the Bengals are kind of a dirty team. So I so it's more personal grudges and animosity than uh kind of the way players are being used, or brought in. I think also the development of Aaron Rodgers as kind of a big jerk and everybody over the last couple a heel in the last couple of years has also softened me on Jordan Love because he's as personality and stuff. He's done nothing to draw anybody's ire or anything like that. He just seems to be a kind of a good guy and a team player and somebody who's had good success on the field too. So um, yeah, that's the Saints. Any further comments on the Saints?
I would just say I have a slight grudge against Spencer Rattler, but I kind of want to see him play okay in the league anyway. But because Rattler was on the Oklahoma team when Oklahoma beat Iowa State and Brock Purdy in the Big 12 championship game, that are like Iowa State's like one shot at that, really. So
Uh,
Rattler,
Rattler.
but Purdy has shown so much success in the league already that Rattler needs to step up his game to catch up now at this point.
Yeah, Rattler would be lucky, I think, to match Purdy's success in the league.
Yeah.
Uh,
But was a higher in the draft
he
pick
was.
than Purdy was, so
He was.
less of a risk, I guess, taken by New Orleans.
Speaking of very high draft picks, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers number one quarterback was the former number one overall pick, also out of Oklahoma, uh, formerly from Texas Tech. Then the 2017 Heisman winner, the former 2018 number one overall pick by Cleveland, is Baker Mayfield. He's now 29 years old, 6'1". He's played for Carolina and the Rams, in addition to Cleveland, and now on to Tampa last year. In his last year as a starter for Tampa, he really resurrected his career. He had a 9-8 record, threw for more than 4,000 yards, 28 touchdowns, only 10 interceptions, 94.6 quarterback rating. Question is, can he continue to be a solid starter? Offensive coordinator Dave Canales actually left um, Tampa to go to Carolina to be the new coach. We'll talk about Carolina in a minute. Um, do you think Mayfield has what it takes to be a solid starter in the NFL, or is he kind of a flash in the pan again, like sort of promising a lot, but then kind of maybe only delivering sporadically?
I think he's a solid quarterback. I think any team should be okay with having a Baker Mayfield, even as a starter. I think, but you're probably not going to expect a Super Bowl run, probably, but you should be expecting at least like flirting with the playoffs, especially in the NFC South anyway. Uh, so yeah, he's a competitive player, and he did one of those types of things too, where he was like traded to another team, and in 1 week won a game when he went to St. Louis. Isn't that right? Not St. Louis, the Rams, though.
Yeah, he did that when he went to the
Right.
Rams. Yeah,
Yeah,
no longer
but
St. Louis.
but another guy that was displaced as quarterback from one college to go to another, like Rattler.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
it's kind of interesting.
Mahomes came into Texas Tech, and I think Mayfield saw the writing on the wall and then left and went to Oklahoma. Um,
But then Rattler at Oklahoma was displaced by Caleb Williams,
Caleb,
right?
Caleb Williams, yeah,
Then Rattler went to South
South
Carolina.
Carolina,
Yeah,
and
so
Williams ended up going with.
they just kick each other out of jobs basically, and then down the
Well,
road,
it's like
and then
Joe Burrow
draft a name
was
later.
was bumped out of Ohio State and went to LSU, and a lot of these quarterbacks have. I think he was bumped out by not Justin Fields, but somebody the uh, quarter before Fields.
But Tua was also right from Alabama to
You're thinking of
Oklahoma.
Hertz was bumped out
Oh,
to
Hurts, not Tua, Hurts.
by
Yes,
Tua.
that's right. By
Yeah,
Tua. That's it. Yeah.
yeah, um,
Yes. 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 Yes.
yeah. And Mayfield his backup most likely was going to be. It seems like probably, although he was barely played with Tampa Bay, former second round pick from University of Florida, 2021 second round pick, 6'5", Kyle Trask. He's only 26 years old. He's barely played with Tampa Bay. He was once the quarterback of the future. He drafted to kind of replace Tom Brady. It seemed like, maybe is he still the quarterback of the future? Um, he threw for 43 touchdowns, only 8 interceptions for Florida in 2020, over 4,000 yards, almost a 70% completion percentage that broke Danny Werfel's Heisman Trophy winning touchdown record at Florida. Uh, do you we mentioned Rashee Rice was the target at SMU for Tanner Mordecai, who was the number one target for Kyle Trask in his last year at Florida in 2020,
Mm,
current chief.
mm,
And Kadarius Toney from the University of
mm.
Florida was the number one kind of players, I think, on that Florida team. So he was the electric, wide receiver, return man for Florida in that 2020 season, which led to his being drafted in the first round by the Giants. And we'll see if Toney can come back and live up to his potential, or if he's going to be kind of a head case and not really amount to much for the Chiefs this year. Maybe you get traded even if the Chiefs have a kind of a logjam at wide receiver. Um, Trask's maybe challenge as the backup is John Wolford, who will be 29 in October, 6'1", undrafted free agent from Wake Forest in 2018. He's played for the Jets, the Arizona Hotshots, the Rams, and the Buccaneers. Now, this is his second season in his NFL career. He's 2-2 as a starter. He's technically 1-0 in the playoffs. He beat Green Bay in Green Bay, but he actually got hurt very early in that matchup, and Jared Goff came in as kind of injured. Jared Goff came in to finish that game. So it was one of the games that Aaron Rodgers famously lost as in his playoff career. Uh, his stats aren't so exciting. One touchdown to 5 interceptions, a 59 quarterback rating, 626 yards. He's a nephew of former offensive tackle Will Wolford of the Buffalo Bills, who was with those 4 year in a row Bills Super Bowl losing teams. And I guess we would say the developmental quarterback practice squad likely on the Buccaneers is Zach Anixstad. 6'3", 24 years old. He played, again, one of these other guys who's played for multiple teams in college, played for Minnesota and then Illinois State. He actually started as a true freshman at Minnesota in 2018, but injuries plagued him. In his last year at Illinois State, he played 9 games. He was hurt again, it seems like. 17 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, over 70% completion percentage, more than 2,000 yards passing. A developmental quarterback. He's probably I would guess practice squad at best, but those are the Buccaneers quarterbacks. So we don't have a lot of. We have a couple veterans, but we don't have a lot of proven success after Mayfield.
That's
So
another economical team too for like salary wise. Mayfield's only making 6.9 million this season, which is on the very low end for starting quarterbacks.
yeah, Mayfield got a deal. I think. I think got a big signing bonus this year. I think his deal balloons a little bit next year.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But yeah, but they're still not paying the quarter on the cap very much, at least this year.
Right. Yeah, it's the 30 million in cash, but so most of it must be signing bonus.
Yeah, so we'll see about the Buccaneers and their
No,
matchups.
it looks like he's oh, it's because he hasn't there's an out. So if they take if there's an if they I don't know whose out it is. There's a $30 million buyout after year one.
Hmm.
And then but then there's up to 5 years. No, just 3 years. And it does usually balloon to 30 million next year, 40 million the year after. Yes, that's it. Yeah.
So maybe they think
So
Trask can develop. They might maybe Mayfield will be out again, depending on what they like um, in Trask. I don't think Wolford has a high upside. I think Trask still they think maybe is an upside quarterback, but it's that would be kind of a raw deal for Mayfield, but it's probably not as raw of a deal as Kirk Cousins felt like he got when he signed after he signed with the Falcons when the Falcons went out and drafted a quarterback first round. Um,
like just weeks
so
later.
weeks later, yeah. So the Atlanta Falcons, they have four guys in the quarterback room, just like the Buccaneers. Um, the presumed starter was going to be Kirk Cousins. He's 6'3". He's going to be 36 in August. He was originally a 2012 fourth round pick by Washington from Michigan State. He was actually drafted in the fourth round the same year that the then Redskins, now Commanders, drafted Robert Griffin in the same round. So they drafted Griffin in the first round and Kirk Cousins in the fourth round that same year. He played 6 seasons for Washington. He's played 6 seasons for Minnesota. Will he play 6 more seasons for the Falcons? It doesn't appear that way, but he was the big free agent signing of the quarterback signing of the year. He was injured most of last year. He tore his Achilles tendon. He played 8 games. Very good season over 8 games. 18 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions, over 2,300 yards passing, 104 quarterback rating, 4-4 record for the Vikings. However, he is famously maybe he does not rise to the occasion in big games. Only 1-3 in the playoffs in his career. Prime time games as well. They're famously he's known for prime time. Kirk Cousins is not where he usually shines. He's usually shining in that 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock window when there's about 9 other games going on and nobody's paying attention to him. When he's matched up in prime time or at the big afternoon matchups, he seems to maybe wilt a little bit under the lights, but maybe that's a thing of the past. But Cousins is, if he's healthy and if he's on his game, he's a solid quarterback. Maybe like we say, maybe borderline top 10 quarterback in the league. Is maybe number one backup, depending on what they choose to do with their newly drafted Michael Penix is Taylor Heineke, who also spent much of his career in Washington, like Kirk Cousins. 6'1", 31 years old now, 2015 undrafted free agent from Old Dominion. Actually, also he was drafted by the or picked up by the Vikings originally in his career. So he's played for the Vikings and Washington, just like Kirk Cousins has. He's played a little bit. He's been in New England, Houston, Carolina. He played for the St. Louis Battlehawks in the XFL.
Then XFL, now
Also
UFL.
UFL, yeah, Washington. He probably had his most success in Washington. His second season now with Atlanta. He started 4 games last year. Desmond Ridder, who is now in Arizona, was the usual starter. 1-3 record last year. 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 890 passing yards. He had some success in Washington. He started a playoff game in 2020. He was the starter for the team in 2021. A 13, 15, and 1 career record as a starter. 39 touchdowns, 28 interceptions in his career. So a decent spot starter, maybe long-term backup if your number one guy goes down. So he's a he's a kind of scrappy player, and not somebody who's going to be a starter, but maybe somebody who's be a good backup, I think.
Well, he seemed to have won over the Washington team when he came in
Yeah,
to like fill in after injuries, for the then starter anyway. But Heineke seemed to be like the favorite of the players, uh,
yeah,
which I think got him the starting job the next year. But then it didn't, go how they had hoped. But the team was just not very good. I don't think it was necessarily his fault
yeah.
for
Then
them.
they try. Then I think they tried to bring in Carson Wentz as their starter, and that didn't go so well for the Washington either. So, but yeah, Heineke, who I believe also who also maybe briefly has had a um, deal with Heineken, the beer, because of their similar names.
Close enough,
Yes.
sure.
Um, Well, Heineke, I guess it could be maybe in jeopardy of not being on the roster, you would think, because they also drafted Michael Penix in the first round this year, and you think you're definitely going to have Penix on the roster. So are you going to keep three quarterbacks on your 53-man roster? Who knows? Um, Heineke, if he gets dropped, he'll probably land someplace else as a backup. But um, Michael Penix Jr., be careful to pronounce his name correctly. I also think it's weird when people go by Junior and the senior, and nobody knows who Senior is. So I've never heard of Michael Penix Senior. I don't think he's been a notable person in any field of endeavor. So I don't understand why Michael Penix Jr. is always known as Michael Penix Jr. because um, it's a little strange to me. Because at least Patrick Mahomes the second, his father Pat Mahomes the first was a Major League Baseball player. You know, and some of these
If you
juniors.
type in Michael Penix in Wikipedia, it autofills the junior. There's no
Senior. But like some of
senior
these guys
auto.
is
Anyway,
only as junior, and we don't know who the senior is. Sometimes the seniors are kind of locally famous. So I don't know if maybe that was the case for Michael Penix, but like Harry Connick Jr., for example. Do you know who Harry Connick Sr. is? He was the
no.
district attorney in New Orleans for many years. So he was famous in New Orleans. I think that's kind of similar to Martin Luther King Jr. I think Martin Luther King Sr. was a well-known pastor in Atlanta, but like was really eclipsed though by the son. Um, no pun intended. Um,
The Wikipedia entry for Michael Penix Jr. does say that his father was a running back for Tennessee Tech Golden Eagles in the 90s and holds several school rushing records.
okay, so maybe he's
So
a somewhat famous.
local to regionally famous,
Local
possibly.
yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Glad you did that research, Dr. Scaff. Uh,
On it.
He's 24 years old. He was the eighth overall pick out of Washington. Surprise draft pick, we could say, to say the least, after Cousins was signed as the quarterback for a 4-year deal. Um, Penix played for Indiana for a couple of years. He tore his ACL there. He played for Washington the last 2 years. At Washington last year, he led the team to the national championship game, passed for almost 5,000 yards, 36 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. He was solid the previous season as well. So the question is, when does he become the starter? He's not really a spring chicken when it comes to draft picks. He's not like Mahomes was when he was, barely 21 coming out of college. He's 24 already. If Cousins plays through his deal, Penix is going to be 28 by the time he becomes a starter, which is how old I think Mahomes was last year. So, or this year maybe even. Um, so it's, you draft him in the first round, he's going to become the starter sooner than rather than later. Is this an Alex Smith kind of situation? You give him a year and then say so long, thanks. But I think they're on the hook though for the first 2 years in the contract. The Falcons though, at
Cousins.
least. Yeah,
3 years of Cousins is the outs after 3 years.
yeah,
135 million. So
it's a lot of
it,
guaranteed money.
it balloons pretty quickly. There's 25 million this year, 40 million in 25, and then 57 and a half in 26.
Ooh,
So
that's a
those are
lot
the
of money.
guaranteed seasons.
That's a lot of guaranteed money.
Yeah. Yeah. 135. guaranteed.
Yeah, so yeah, he's
So yeah,
Penix
I
is
mean, for drafting, another first round guy, then you know you probably want him to be in the second year, which then you're going to eat 40 million of the last guy that you signed for that one season, only to have to eat 57 the next year too. It seems insane to
yeah, this seems
think
like
that.
a just a crazy. Why would you draft Penix? I don't see the upside there. I guess unless I think he's the next Mahomes, but I don't know why sign Cousins. You sign Cousins first, and then you can. I don't know. It just seems strange to me that
Yeah. But I mean, can he be the next Mahomes if he's already, you know, 5 years older than what Mahomes had been when he was drafted?
basically almost, yeah. I don't
So
know.
yeah, I don't think you could even say that you could make that argument, really. Nah, it's like 3 years older, but whatever.
Next Joe Burrow maybe or something. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that.
Um, but still, yeah. I think that's a perplexing
He's no
pick.
Stetson Bennett, but I mean, come
Yeah,
on.
yeah. Penix perplexing pick. Yeah, yeah. But no, little less perplexing maybe, but also somebody maybe who's a developmental quarterback who's just the same age as Penix, basically, is John Paddock. You have Paddock and Penix. Paddock was an undrafted free agent out of Ball State in Illinois this year. This is one of these guys you wonder why was this guy even brought in? He only played 7 games at Illinois. He walked on. He was never a starter at Ball State even. He was a backup for 4 years at Ball State. He did throw for 9 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions, and about 1,300 yards in 7 games at Illinois. But how did this guy? He's not like big. He's only 6 feet tall, so he's not a big like physical specimen. So what is it about him? Again, was this a special favor to his dad or something? Because or because he's got some sort of hold on the quarterback coach? I don't know. It's perplexing. The Paddock selection is almost as perplexing as the Penix pick. Uh, but
I
the
wonder if
Falcons
someone
do.
had this kind of chat about somebody like Mike Piazza, who was drafted in the last round as a favor to Tommy Lasorda's
Tommy Lasorda, yeah,
like his yeah
cousin
so
or
yeah,
something.
I think Piazza was like his godson or something, was Lasorda's
Yeah,
godson,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So yeah,
Or I guess third cousin once removed or something. Yeah, yeah,
something like that, yeah. But that
yeah.
was like
So
a
I don't know.
63rd round draft pick in 1993 or something like that, or 1990, somewhere in that area.
Maybe late 80s even. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, somewhere in there. But maybe it was the same. Maybe it was something like that. And this is the next Mike Piazza of football. Is that what you're projecting here for John Paddock?
Sure. No, I'm not predicting that at all. Yeah, after his father asked Lasorda to select Piazza as a favor, 1988 amateur draft in the 62nd round
Uh,
was
no, it's
Piazza.
off by one round and 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, he was Tom's godfather was the former MLB manager Tommy Lasorda. So yeah, you're right about the godfather.
Yes,
Made him offer he couldn't refuse. Tommy
exactly.
Lasorda.
62nd round draft pick. That was the offer.
Yeah, 62nd. Yeah, they only have 20 rounds now in the draft. So Gerard Dyson was a 50th round draft pick, I think.
And possibly Dayton Moore's best selection as a GM.
He got Hosmer and stuff. So
Right.
you know, but yeah, that's the Falcons. Now on to our final team, and we'll wrap up this extra long episode of the One Trick Power Hour with the Carolina Panthers. They only have 3 quarterbacks in their quarterback room, at least as of now. The first, presumed starter is going to be Bryce Young, who just turned 23, so he's young-ish as well. He's not on the old. This is going to be his second year, and he's just turned 23. He's still a year younger than Penix. Um, He's also 4 inches shorter than Penix, only 5'10". Another one of these Kyler Murray-esque pocket passers. Former number 1 overall pick by the Carolina Panthers in the 2023 draft over C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, all of whom it seems like have had as much or more success uh, as Bryce Young did. At least maybe didn't have the level of struggle that Bryce Young did. Richardson got hurt, but I think people are still kind of gaga over his potential upside. And Levis, I think they see as a strong arm starter based on his beginnings last year with the Titans. And of course, CJ Stroud had one of the great seasons ever by a rookie quarterback. But he struggled in his first year as starter in Carolina. He's got a new coach now, Dave Canales, who helped turn around Baker Mayfield. So maybe he can help turn around Bryce Young. Young had 11 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, only a 73 quarterback rating, less than 3,000 yards passing, a 2-14 record as a starter last year. So not a great start, but famously, of course, Peyton Manning had a pretty bad first year as well, and some other solid quarterbacks have had bad first years. Joe Burrow's first year wasn't very good either, so maybe they can turn it around. But we were of the opinion that before the draft a couple of years ago that we thought Young was too small to be a really good quarterback in the league, and maybe that will prove true. He's maybe he's Kyler Murray's done okay, but he's been injured a lot, and I think Young might be even smaller than Kyler Murray. So
It just doesn't bode well for staying healthy, upright and healthy is necessarily what
yeah,
you're aiming for there, right?
yeah, yeah. That's what you usually want a guy who's kind of biggish, A, to see over the line, and B, to withstand a lot of hits that quarterbacks inevitably take. And if Young goes down, Andy Dalton, who's 30, he'll be 37 in late October. 6'2", former 2011 second round pick by the Bengals out of TCU. Andy Dalton played for the Bengals through 2019, and he has bounced around since. Played for the Cowboys, the Bears, the Saints, and now in his second year with the Panthers. He will be the starter if Young goes down. He did start one game last year with the Panthers. He's kind of a borderline starter at this point in his career. Very capable backup, I would say. In his career, he's thrown 246 touchdowns to 144 interceptions. He's 83, 78, and 2 as a starter. 0-4, however, in the playoffs. So, but if the Carolina Panthers make the playoffs and Andy Dalton is starting, I think that'll be a pretty good. They'll probably say that's a pretty good season for them. So Andy Dalton, Red Rifle, as it was once known because of his shock of ginger hair, is the backup in Carolina. So they have the veteran backup, they have the young promising starter, and then they also have a developmental quarterback who is actually 2 years older than Bryce Young. He'll be 25 in October. This is Jack Plummer. No relation. I looked up to former Denver Broncos quarterback and Jake Plummer. It's spelled the same way, Plummer. He's also from Arizona, like Jake Plummer was, but he's not related. He's not closely related. He's 6'5". He's a big guy, so the opposite of Bryce Young. He's 6'5", undrafted free agent in 2024 out of Louisville. He also played for Purdue and Cal. He started for parts of 5 seasons. His best year was last year with Louisville. He led the team to a 10-4 record, passed for over 3,200 yards, 21 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. He's not a runner. In his college career, he has negative 18 rushing yards over 5 seasons. So he is definitely not a running quarterback.
Just a lot of kneel
Unlike Young,
downs, perhaps.
maybe some of it was a lot of kneel downs, but I think it's also he's not getting any gains either. But Jack Plummer, big guy, project, but he's the third person in the Carolina quarterback room. And you have anything to add about the Carolina Panthers?
I would just say, just out of because it's somewhat interesting anyway, is that Trevor Lawrence is just 15 days older than Jack Plummer, Mike.
Trevor Lawrence has been in the league for 4 years now, something like that.
I think so.
He's at
but
least
he
been
was
3 years. Yeah,
but he was,
this
famously,
PS4 team.
would have been a number one pick if he was allowed to come out after his first season, but in the NFL
Yeah, he would have
rules,
been. Yeah, he really peaked his
you have
freshman
to
year
spend
in
three
college.
years in college before you can come out.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. It seems, at least as of now, it seems like Trevor
so
Lawrence
it's
really peaked in.
three full seasons of Trevor Lawrence in the NFL. Yeah. But yes, they're just days apart in age.
Yeah, so we've seen a lot of these old quarterbacks coming out of the league because of the transfer window, transfer portal now. So it seems like quarterbacks, like the really good quarterbacks, are getting snatched up early, but like the developmental ones, the backups, they're like spending 4, 5, 6 years in college, it seems like, and
Mhm.
bouncing around a lot. So maybe that's going to be a trend. We'll see that's a trend in the next several divisions that we have. We have 6 more divisions, 3 more days of quarterback previews, 3 more weeks of quarterback previews. Um, but any final thoughts on our NFC South, NFC West quarterback preview?
So the question I would ask to you though, Mike, is do you see improvement from the NFC West over last year in any of these individual teams or the quarterbacks themselves, do you think?
I think I see in the South, the Falcons quarterback room has certainly improved. I think Cousins is much better than Heineke or Ritter
Twitter,
from last
okay.
year. I think the Penix selection is weird and kind of hamstrings them later. And if either they're gonna have to pay Cousins a bunch of money not to play, or they're gonna have to sit Penix longer than they should,
Yeah.
or trade him away. So I think they're better. I think the Panthers will be better simply because Bryce Young, I think, will be a better player his second year than his first year. Or if he's not, well, that's not a good sign.
Yeah.
Um,
They're not going to want to give up
I
on
think,
that, pick. I don't wouldn't think so
no,
quickly, but they're going to give
yeah.
him every chance to try to dig out of what, he's had to deal with, at least anyway.
I think the Saints and Buccaneers are probably also just a little better because it'll be
And
Mayfield's second year as a quarterback there. It'll be Carr's second year, so maybe they're going to get used to playing for their teams a little. So I would say all 4 teams are a little bit improved when it comes to the quarterback play. I don't know about the backup situations behind them, but I think in terms of starters, you would think that the level is going to go up in the NFC South. I'm not sure it's the worst division in football anymore. It still might be, but it's got, I think, rather than having like 3 bad teams and 1 mediocre team, it might have 3 mediocre teams and 1 bad team. Um,
yeah, which is,
so
I mean, a huge improvement. It seems like an incremental step up from 2 years ago, then too, because they were by far the worst division
yeah,
in the NFL. I think what every team was 500 or worse, and then
yes,
last year
yeah.
there were two playoff teams out of the division, weren't
Or
there?
2 teams that were 9 and 8, I think.
Yeah. Oh, right. They were tied, but one got the playoff spot, the other one did not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, New Orleans just missed it by some tiebreaker.
And Atlanta was pretty close to that as well. So I
Mm,
think they 7 and 10. They could have been close to 9 and 8, 8 and 9.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's what I think about the South. It's not nearly, yeah, the NFC South is not nearly as bad as it was, but um, yeah, it's still fairly weak. There's no strong team, at least from this point, it doesn't seem like there's a really strong team. Maybe Atlanta, but they have screwed themselves, I think, in terms of future success. With they're either going to have to pay Cousins a bunch of money not to play, or if
Yeah.
Cousins doesn't work out, I guess Penix will be okay. But I think they're going to set Penix when he should be playing. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Well, they're just expecting an injury somewhere along the line that they will
Yeah.
need a replacement for.
But they'll
I don't
still but they'll
know.
still pay all that money to Cousins if he gets hurt. So
Yeah.
I guess
Well,
they'll
I mean,
have
there may be some kind of like insurance policy kind of thing that would
yeah,
cover salary for like a
yeah,
long-term
that's true.
injury.
I
But
guess they'll
that
have
doesn't seem like
that
the way you're supposed
experiment.
to go about that, though, right? I mean, that's what the
Yeah.
yeah.
We don't, yeah, here we hear the Warner Power don't plan that one of us will get hurt and have a high priced backup. Maybe we do. Maybe we have some of those. Maybe I
Succession
haven't
plans in place to keep the One Inch
plans in
Power Hour
place.
alive.
Well, if we should draw one up, if we don't have one in place, but we can do that uh, uh, this over this next week in our off time. But I think we should probably sign out tonight. It's been a long and informative Warner Power Hour session. We hope that you have learned a lot about the quarterback situation in the NFC South and the NFC West. You've learned much more about the Royals and the Olympics, and you found this, just like every other Warner Power Hour, to be a bevy of delightful and insightful uh, information and insight. So, from all of us here, we thank you for watching or for listening. And as always, I am Dr. Michael Werman. He is Dr. Andrew Scaff. We are the Morning Trek Power Hour. Please like and subscribe to our podcast, which is available on many different delivery platforms, or our YouTube channel. And we hope you enjoy these next few weeks of NFL training camp, of the baseball season as it really heats up in August, and the next week and a half or so of the Olympic Games. And we will see you again next time. And until then, we'll wish you a good day.